So, looking down below on the port side, and this is the looking forward at the galley, and then aft at the salon. That's the main, and it's over 6 feet headroom here.
Just to show you the amount of storage aft that there is underneath
another double bunk
bilges here. It's just, and that the storage room is
ample size to put 5-gallon plastic buckets for storing things in, and it really helps. Going forward from the salon, there's the a nice little 12-volt DC fridge. There used to be a Dickinson heater here, and when we lived aboard in BC, and one could take the fridge and put it on this side and put the Dickinson back, and the Dickinson gives lovely dry heat to that. That's really nice. The main beams, yes, you have to duck under them to get into the galley, but once you've done that, you really are in a protected place in the galley where people can't come in if you're working with boiling water and doing the dishes and all the rest of it. It's your own space, and there's lots of well ventilated cupboard room here, and they're big and easy to store stuff in, and there's a really nice locker in here for storing open things like potatoes or onions or things that can be in open rack. And then there's two burner stoves underneath the shelving. So going from one side to the other, compare the size of them. And by the way, sometimes we put tables and chairs out here, but sometimes we move the chain to one side, and this is where we dance. It's the dance floor. Okay, this is the radio room. It's our ham radio. It's a radio call sign, and this is Captain Krabby looks after us, and we look after Captain Krabby. We call this the wireless room. It's where we hang clothes and keep stuff, and this is also where we have built the water maker down in here, and storage again of stuff we wish to keep waterproof and safe. They were waterproof at this end. That's the actual water maker itself, is in there, very easily accessible. And of course, the navigation station. We still have an old-fashioned sextant, a very nice quality barometer. We can monitor the ship's electrical supply with that, and because she's a wooden boat, we can fix things if it gets broken. We just carry ordinary hand tools, but also we carry a sander, a drill, a jigsaw, and a grinder, and a nice big strong winch done. We can take that stuff out. Because it's wood, we can fix things. Another bunk on this side, double bunk, and our two sons, when they were very young, they both slept in here, and they had their work table to do their drawings and schoolwork on. That's the hatch that we replaced from the inside, That works very well, and we're suggesting we've got another one of these. We suggest we put it in the head. And as part of that watch keeping, the radar is really very, very good. We can reliably see freighters 12 miles away, even with this quite small radar. And it is fitted with an alarm. It can tell you when it sees things, and it is fitted with a timer. It can come on every 10 minutes, let's say, automatically scan, and if it doesn't detect anything, it will just go back to sleep again. The depth sounder is the same thing. It has an alarm. You can tell it what depth you want the alarm to go off at, and both of these things really helps the who's on watch. And we found with a good VHF radio, it was very important to be able to just So there's the skiff, which is now hung up on by the winches, and that's sufficiently high for cruising around coastal here. When we go out on the ocean, we take off the outboard, and then the skiff can rise right above that, up to the level of the top of that beam, which means that it doesn't, you can go over the big swells in the ocean and the skiff is right there. On the starboard side, at the bow, the storage in there, that's the inner forestay I mentioned that goes up here. There are lots and lots of line in this boat, and right here is the parachute anchor system, which is just, again, one of those things worth its weight in gold, to be able to stop the boat in a storm or a gale and just go to anchor out in the middle of the ocean. That parachute anchor is set 500 feet ahead of the boat, and 500 feet of nylon line is quite elastic, and the boat will move back and forward on the parachute and just ride up over the waves. And it's a wonderful feeling to be able to do that. There are 4 winches at the base of the mast, and that's very useful for adjusting the sails. There's a big one, of course, for the genoa. And when somebody is sent up the mast on the stairs, you get a terrific view from up there, and they can see from up there things that the person who's on watch can't see, of course. And so they will, if we're going through a narrow, confined entrance to a lagoon, we'll send somebody up aloft, and when they go up, you can put them on a safety line around a big winch and winch them up and down, so if they fell, they wouldn't go anywhere. Okay, yeah, we've talked about the small stern anchor. So the boat comes, as I say, with 3 anchors, 2 to the bow and 1 to the stern, and this is to our head. As you can see, full standing room here. That's all good. And the head is a composting head. It's not connected to the sea in any way at all. It's entirely self-contained, so there's no possibility of leaks or floods via that. So, and we'll love it. It doesn't smell. And when there's a lot of people using the boat, you'll see this tube that goes out here. It just naturally ventilates, but there's a small fan when we have guests on board, a very small fan, a tiny little fan. It draws just a few watts, but it runs 24 hours a day, and there is no smell of head in here, which is just wonderful. Coming with the boat, and I haven't had time to fit it yet, and I probably won't have time by the time it's out, is another good quality port. I traced out there, and the intention is to cut there and mount that in like that. So that's, again, more line. And this is where we keep our paints. Again, more line. Paints, and it's also where we keep epoxy, and I will give you epoxy with the boat, because she's a wooden boat. But the advantage of wood, the disadvantage of wood is sometimes you have to maintain it. The advantage of wood is that you can maintain it. There's the radar antenna, and there's the single sideband ham antenna up beside the solar panels. And then this leads on. Running through here is one of the main 4 beams that hold this boat together. And I'll talk about those beams later, because we overbuilt there. The beams are slightly larger and stronger than the ones in the plans. But I checked that out with the designer himself, James Warm, and he said that's just fine. Every change we made, we ran past James. We had a lot of conversations with him, and he's a wonderful man to work with. This is the master bunk, and although I've got the pillows up at that end, the bunk widens here, so it's actually wider at this end than at that end, and it's a nice roomy up there, and it's been a wonderful bunk for us over the years. Just fantastic. This guy here, this is our single sideband. Earthlight's call sign is Victor Echo 7 India Whiskey Yankee, and when we cross the ocean, or even when we just go up north away from Vancouver, we can be in touch with the ham network. And the ham network is a wonderful thing because it can be in touch with other places. For instance, we once had a crew member who fell and banged their head quite powerfully and saw stars and all the rest of it. So we immediately wondered about concussion. Well, we got on the ham radio and we were speaking to a doctor in 20 minutes, a volunteer ham radio guy who happens to be a doctor. There are some things that must be done to this boat now. This is a hatch that we fitted because the other hatch failed. And I'm going to show you the other hatch. On the other side, there was 2 of those on this side. This hatch has cracked here. The polycarbonate has cracked very recently. So if I had more time, and that's one of the reasons I'm selling the boat, I've got things that I must do. But if I had more, I'd rebuild that hatch because it's worked very well, and it's quite cheap to rebuild it. If somebody wants to do that, I have the wood for it regularly. I have the polycarbonate ready for it. We got the attachments ready for it. If somebody wants to have these, they can rebuild the hatch, or they can buy another one of those hatches, put a collar on the deck and mount it on. That would be much quicker, but more expensive. So it's the usual trade-off. What else have I not talked about now? The winches in the cockpit. Oh, there's a third winch in the cockpit, and I'll show you what that is for. The drive leg for this, there's the propeller. Well, that propeller is in the end of that specially made, very robust drive leg, which is connected to the back of the engine, and it turns very easily. So that's nice. The wonderful thing about this is we once got tangled up in some deep sea fishing net just as we were coming into Hawaii, into a very small harbor, a difficult harbor to get into, and it was everywhere. Well, we were able to raise this drive leg up in 30 seconds, hack this stuff off, get it back in the water again. We must have been out of commission for 2 minutes. And you couldn't do that in an ordinary boat that has the propeller hidden away underneath the hull. And so that drive leg is taken up by this little winch here. And I'll just show you how that goes. And there you are. I hope you got that. That's the drive leg in the water. So going from one side to the other, compare the size of them. And by the way, sometimes we put tables and chairs out here, but sometimes we move the chain to one side, and this is where we dance. It's the dance floor. So, you want to go somewhere in the world? You want to have some adventures? You want to travel to Hawaii or Tahiti or just up and down the BC coast? I mean, there's going right up the coast there now. You know, you can spend a very lovely 4 months in the summer here on this boat, going away up the coast. She's strong, she's powerful, she's safe. A simple boat, but very adaptable. Very adaptable to different ways of sailing. And having a good skiff is wonderful too. If you bought a brand new 50-foot catamaran, nowadays they'll cost between $1 and $2 million. If you built one like we did, it takes over 3 years to build one. Or else, you can buy Earthlight, a proven boat. You can buy her for $49,000, and within a year, you'll be very competent in sailing her. Spend a year on this coast, exploring BC. And then once you've done that, take her to Hawaii, take her to Fiji, take her to San Francisco, take her to Papeete. Just an idea.